right. Hi, everybody. My name is Crimson Clad. We're starting to get started here, but my sound is not excellent. So we do want to try and get some feedback from everybody in the chat. And let me know if you can hear this really crummy quality audio. We want to make sure the Beaxy guys get a chance to really talk to you about all the cool stuff that they got going on. I want to make sure I could talk to you about some of the cool stuff that Hive has going on. But the first thing we want to do is double check that the stream is working, that people are here, and that you guys can hear us okay. So do let me know in the chat. We're going to take a look at what's going on over on YouTube. We're also streaming live to Vim and to 3Speak, which are both Hive-powered solutions, blockchain decentralized powered solutions. So before you guys introduce yourself, let's just double check. I'm going to hop over and maybe we'll get a chance to see if the YouTube is looking good. And then you guys can do your introductions. So let's pop over there. And then, yeah, why don't you guys get started introducing yourself, talking a little bit about Beaxy, and then we'll kind of go through some of the plan that we've got. I can see there's quite a few people watching on the YouTube. And maybe we'll get a chance, and we'll go from there.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds good. So,
my name is everybody says audio sounds great. So perfect. Sorry to interrupt. Everything looks all right.
Great. Okay, perfect. We were worried there for a minute. So, my name is Bay, director and co-president of Beaxy. I work on mostly outward facing. So work closely with Crim on marketing for Hive. And we're excited to hop on this podcast because we think that Hive has a lot of potential, especially in the decentralized aspect of cryptocurrency. So Crim, excited to get started.
Hey there, James Carney here, also from Beaxy. I've been with the team since about July, in the heels of Beaxy 2.0 and some of the more exciting things we're doing. But I've done a lot of my homework on Hive, and it's one of the projects I'm personally more excited about. So happy to be here with you all today.
And so just for a quick reminder, in case people don't know me, my name's Crimson Clad. Most people around the community know me as Crim. I started off as a content creator. I found Hive as a crypto enthusiast and a content creator. But very quickly, I became fascinated with the entire idea of a decentralized social experience and a lot of the possibilities that the blockchain could bring, not just to sort of the crypto sphere and the monetary aspect of things, but in terms of the control and the power and the sort of return of ownership of data to an individual. And that's been a really exciting part of my journey. So now I am technically part of one of the consensus witness teams, and I'm a community liaison, and I do a ton of volunteering around the blockchain. So I took on this kind of thing, and we're going to be doing, I'm hoping, a lot of cool announcements with Beaxy in the future, since you guys have a lot going on. So I think probably a great place to start is, I know you guys have got some of your community here. We've got a lot of our community here. Maybe talking a little bit about Beaxy as an exchange. I know being US based is really exciting for a lot of people since there's not a ton of options out there.
Yeah, definitely. So you kind of hit the nail on the head with the reason, and this is actually goes back to one of the questions that someone asked, but the reason that we chose to partner with Hive is because the things that you guys are doing, we have additional, aspects of that partnership, further down the line, right? So, I mean, it's great in listing the asset and getting the Hive community involved, but there are bigger pieces at play, right? That we saw an opportunity to really kind of partner with you guys. As for the exchange, we've always really strived to do things right from the beginning. And you can see the effects of that, especially in 2020. Regulators have been very open with the fact that, and we've seen a number of high profile exchanges have the hammer come down on them, right? So we've always really strived to do things right from the beginning. Back when it was like, and it's interesting, right? Because this kind of goes against kind of some of the essence of crypto, right? But like making people KYC and pass AML, like you just can't get around that, right? And even though at heart it would like to, further the mission of crypto in general, we've always looked to do things right from the start, right? So you mentioned it, right? US compliant. The features that we offer are really trying to cater to traders and make it easy for them to use a US exchange, right? So I think outside of Kraken, there are no other exchanges that will offer the amount of fiat options that we have, right? Euro, pound, Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, US dollar, and euro. Right. So just, that and being able to arbitrage between those, being able to get your money in and out of crypto easily, really trying to bridge that gateway, but also find a piece of the pie that makes sense. Right. So another cool thing that we kind of do, and I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent here, but automated signals, right? Automated signals, technical analysis signals that work. They have a 63% hit rate across all the assets on the exchange, right? So like that alone allows for people that, look at an exchange and go, I don't know what I'm doing, right? Because they're not traditionally easy to use, right? But that feature is trying to shorten that whole learning curve, right? In just that one feature alone, right? So we kind of looked at the space, we have traded, but we wanted to make it accessible for not just the 80% that do, or the 20% that do 80% of the volume, but for the 80% of people that want to trade crypto, that's kind of where we're trying to carve out our piece of the pie.
I think that's a really exciting thing. One of the sort of, I don't even know how to put it, one of the calling cards of Hive is that there is a social distribution layer, and there is sort of the rewards pool, and everybody kind of freaks out about that as being the be all end all of the blockchain, and it's really not. But one of the things that I think it's always important to touch on is that Hive in a lot of ways for people is their gateway crypto. And the reason that I say that is, you can come, you can play, Splinterlands is one of the most popular blockchain games. I think is the most popular and most used blockchain game in existence. Or you can start blogging, or you can share video, or you can start streaming. And so there is this sort of aspect of the ecosystem where you can tip or you can earn natively on content. And for a lot of people, that's their introduction to crypto. They don't necessarily go out and just go balls deep and buy a big bag of Bitcoin or, pick an alt that makes sense to them because it doesn't. This space doesn't make sense to everyone right off the bat. And so one of the kind of exciting things about Hive is regardless of whether you come here to earn or not, because the ecosystem is so much bigger than that. For a lot of people, this is their first sort of brush with crypto. Just knowing that the ecosystem is built around it, that there's a potential to transact value with it. It's kind of an exciting thing. And so we have a really diverse crypto community, and it's great. But I think that's one thing certainly that we could be really well suited to having entering our ecosystem is more options for the not so experienced traders and for people who want to get deeper into the crypto space and who need sort of tools and a trusted on and off ramp to be able to access that in their lives.
Yeah,
Krim, that
exactly.
actually brings up a good point because one of the questions from the Beaxy community that was sort of on that same vein was, what do the sort of top and then what do the average content creators make for producing quality content on the Hive ecosystem? You mentioned that it's sort of the gateway to crypto for a lot of your users, and I'm assuming that's because content creators can actually make currency of sorts to get paid for their work and for that and to, whatever else. Can you talk a little bit about what you can expect as a content creator in the Hive ecosystem in terms of compensation?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, one of the things that people always get a little nervous to hear is that it's the work that you put in and the connections that you make. But I mean, one of the big things that I kind of want to help people focus on is that the rewards pool isn't the main draw of Hive. It's an aspect of the Hive blockchain that is tied to the blogging. And it certainly is a day-to-day draw for a lot of people. But for most people that come in, it's kind of like a slow faucet. It is smaller amounts, and you start building up your readership and your ownership as you go. But it's much like any other social media in that you can't expect that you're going to hop in, make your first video, and then there's going to be thousands of dollars thrown upon you. We have some people who do really, really well here. We have some people who, they come and they struggle day to day. And I think a lot of that comes from maybe not totally understanding the social mentality and the crypto mentality that kind of they get a little mixed. And part of that is because the crypto space is full of projects that magically 100 times overnight and, Bitcoin's worth 16K today. So in people's minds, anything in the crypto space must be an influx of magic money out of nowhere. And so one of the big things about Hive is it's not like that in that it creates a tool set for you as a content creator. Yes, you have the ability to earn Hive for your content, but more importantly, you have a place that's immutable, that's censorship resistant, and that solves a lot of problems that we're starting to see with social media, especially in today's day and age where things are pretty wild. And that is largely, it's largely that you can lose entire groups, entire communities. You can be deplatformed. You can be demonetized. Content that you've been holding on to for years can disappear out from under you. You can experience shadow bans. And all these things are starting to become a tipping point for content creators. And it's not only about the earning side of things, it's also about the ability to continue earning. And that's the actual sort of work that they've put in terms of the content and the community that they've built, gone in an instant. And so when you come to Hive, these things are actually kept at blockchain level. So if I follow you today because I want to know all the updates about Beaxy, and it turns out that, let's say Facebook does another crypto marketing ban and all of your content gets wiped because you're a crypto exchange. That's it. I've lost that connection to you. You've lost that connection to a customer. If I'm a content creator, having that swept out from under me is pretty devastating. You worked really hard to make that connection. This stuff is all kept at blockchain level for Hive. So, for a lot of people, they kind of come with the idea, their ears perk up at, I can earn something. But as soon as they realize that Hive is a bigger ecosystem and a tool set that can support them as a content creator, but also as just a DApp user, it becomes really this open world for people to explore.
So on that censorship sort of discussion, right? I'm taken back to the whole TikTok debacle that's still not, wrapped up. But you had a lot of people, for example, in the government of India, TikTok in India, you had a lot of people that had spent years accumulating the followers and the content strategy and everything else that's very tailored to a certain context, right? Can you talk a little bit about how Hive is countering that narrative? And I'm assuming there's a balance that needs to be struck, right? Because a complete chaos is not exactly desirable for any kind of social platform, while sort of muting or silencing certain voices is not desirable either. So now more than ever, decentralized platforms are poised to disrupt sort of your big five tech providers. Does Hive see itself as one of those disruptors, and is that a priority, or is that just sort of a side effect?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that is kind of really exciting about this whole process as we've gone on is that we've found that you can strike a balance, and we're kind of constantly iterating on blockchain abilities to help with that. And so Hive has a feature that's called communities. And so what it essentially means is that everything that you put into the blockchain, all the information, whether it's a post, a comment, a vote, a follow, and there's some flexibility beyond just blogging aspects, but we'll talk about just blogging now. All of that stuff is held in the blockchain. And what that means is it's distributed across the entire network. And, much like we see distributed ledgers for hard money type coins, it's the same sort of thing. Should one node go down? Should one computer go down? Should one country go down? That ledger is distributed, and the connections and the community aspect and the personal content is still held within the ledger. So that's one part of it that already has a leg up on traditional social media. But the other thing is, yeah, one thing as you enter the internet space, let alone the crypto space, is you can and will run into people who you probably don't agree with. And that is a really hard balance to strike, is where do my rights to free speech begin and end, and your rights to free speech begin and end? Where do we as a platform begin to try to police that in a way that creates a great social experience? And should we be able to police that? Who's the arbiter of what is, harmful or not? And obviously, yeah, there's a ton of harmful stuff on the internet. That's absolutely without question. And so the way that Hive kind of approaches this is, Hive itself is the blockchain. It is the ledger. It holds and contains these connections and this information and everything that you put into it. But interfaces, each individual interface, and anyone can set one up, each individual interface gives you some control over what you want to see and show. And so there are the biggest popular ones are Hive Blog, or PeakD is another fascinating one. There's so many great ones. There's some mobile Ecency, Dappler. We've got some WordPress plugins like XP. So there are a ton of interfaces, and if I didn't say any of the blogging centric ones, they're going to kill me, and I apologize. But the reason that I kind of bring this up is you can choose the interface and you can build a community, and there are tools for you to moderate within a community. And what that means is, so should I make a post about, it's Hive, check it out, and you come along and go, Krim, your face is dumb, I don't like you. I can choose to mute that out of my community. I can hide that on my posts, but it doesn't actually remove your ability to say these things. And so depending on the interface that you use, you can actually go to a community and you can browse through what it's muted. You can look and see what is the information that it's suppressing. Or if that's not something you want to see, you can use the interface to just not. You can go along inside your community. You can have those things that need to be moderated out, whether it's to collect up good content in a niche or whether it's to keep down some of the unsavory elements that will inevitably find their way into any popular community. You have options for both. And so it really does come down to, you can say and do whatever you want. It's freedom of speech, but it's not freedom of consequence. The blockchain will hold that information, but it's very likely that if you're really trying to be harmful, there's a moderation aspect to things. And so the balancing point is that, yes, anyone at any time can go into the ledger and can find exactly what you've said or done. That you'll never be prevented from saying your piece. But at the same time, an interface may decide for whatever reason, yeah, no, we're gonna mute that out. And so the balance is, you can always find that information, but it may not be something that will make you popular around communities or around interfaces, and they'll have the option to sort of filter you out and tuck you away if it has to happen. And it's not a perfect balance, and it's something that on the longer term side of things, I know a lot of the devs for the blockchain are looking into better communities features to really take advantage of what's needed in the world right now. But so far, it's actually pretty exciting. And the big thing is kind of reminding people that it exists and that option is open to them.
Speaking of that, somebody from our community had sort of, their complete outsider to Hive and the community that came before it. They kind of wanted the elevator pitch, and I'm curious because you have some like these awesome community values that you were just elaborating on and how the whole thing's set up. But to a complete outsider who can get involved or buy whatever coin they want, why is Hive worth taking a special look at and taking a special look at getting involved with?
There's a couple of big things right now that no other project really kind of combines in the way that Hive does. And that is largely that it's fast, it's feeless, it's open source, and that it is centered around information across a distributed ledger. And so what that means is it's not only about blogging and distributing social rewards, but what it actually is able to do is hold something like custom JSON, which is a type of information, essentially, a way of formatting information. And what that allows for is we're starting to see that, again, within 3-second block times with completely feeless. And a lot of people kind of lose track of that is each time that you make an action on the network, whether that is to send tokens or whether that is to play a game or whether that is to start a live stream, you're not eating away at your holdings. And this is something that, especially with, say, ETH right now or other transaction fees, even for Bitcoin, the time and the amount that it may cost you is really problematic. And so in a social space, you can't have that. And especially for a lot of dApps and a lot of things that can be powered by Hive easily, this is a huge advantage. So fast, feeless, scalable, and again, it's all open source. So the exciting thing is, if you can dream it up, there's an excellent likelihood that you can power it using Hive. And that alone is, it's a big draw for project managers. It's a big draw for developers, but it's also a draw for users who are sick of services that are built in ecosystems where they can lose everything. And, it's as silly as Twitter right now. If you hit the right combination of keywords, just being sassy because you've noticed it, your account's banned. You don't get another chance. It's gone. And that's just because you type something dumb like Britain and, whatever, some magical cocktail of algorithms that just decide you don't exist anymore. It's shocking. So one of the big things that I think the takeaway is if you're coming in and you've never heard of Hive before, it's a fast, scalable blockchain that can power an entire ecosystem. There are human-readable wallet addresses, and those wallet addresses and your keys to your wallet actually can allow you to log into pretty much any service built on the blockchain. So people often come, they start out and they say, okay, yeah, I'm going to blog. Ooh, I want to check out this game. Oh, you know what? I'm sick of YouTube. I'm going to go to 3Speak. And the sort of ecosystem grows from there, and it's growing every day. So in terms of why you'd want to pick up some Hive, why you want to hold some Hive, we basically have the ability to make transactions on the network if you stake your coins. You can unstake them. You don't have to keep them around. Lots of people trade them because you can transact value really quickly. Send a transaction, no fees, 3 seconds, money from me to you. You have an option. How you want to use Hive is up to you. The rest of it is available to you as you see fit.
I'm assuming the human readable wallet address is sort of your username is your wallet address is a key feature, right? Because it allows you to sort of get donations from your following, or when you create content, right? People pay you for your content that you created, and it's you develop an aura around that handle of sorts. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, it's fascinating because for a lot of people, again, normies coming into the crypto space, and for you guys as an exchange, you probably get this a lot. Wallet addresses can really trip people up. It's a really tricky sort of thing. And certainly in terms of both verifying that you are yourself and also making sure that you have a connection to a creator that could be monetary in terms of we have tips or just straight transactions back and forth. It's a lot easier to go to somebody's blog and say, okay, oh yeah, this is at Crimson Clad. Okay, I'm going to send her something. And you can do that directly and easily. And that's sort of really exciting across the board too, because you will find that I don't have to guess that I just read Beaxy Wallet's update on Hive blog, and then I got into a sponsored Splinterlands tournament, or I went through one of the chat apps that's available. There's no longer a guess if you are you. If if you hold your keys, it's your account, much the same as any crypto. So there isn't a guess. The key holder is the key holder. And I know that any actions that I take across the network is going to be with that person that I intend it to be with. And I have control over that, which is, again, a really nice thing because nobody's going to remember 7XZ295, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Well, and given that Hive is kind of one of the most decentralized, on the spectrum, like the most decentralized it gets, right? And this is going to kind of tee up this next question for you. So get ready here. How is it that, all these folks that are involved in this decentralized ecosystem, developers, token holders, everybody, it seems like you guys have to develop a consensus about which way to go with the Hive project based on sort of like old school Athens democracy style consensus, right, from everybody in the community. So does that get a little bit chaotic is it like herding cats, or is it easy to align the vision between all the different stakeholders in the community?
Yeah. Well, I will say that there's kind of a couple parts to this. And one is, given that we're we're new and old, but obviously Hive's creation was technically this year. There certainly has been a ton for us to learn as a more decentralized ecosystem. We kind of call it the legacy code base, the original chain that we kind of came from and we forked away from, was incredibly centralized, and it was kind of managed by one corporation, one entity. And so in terms of the information, we were decentralizing it across nodes. But in terms of sort of ideas for where things were going and who was doing the coding, it was one unit. And so that was what the ecosystem was used to. And then, of course, the entire point of forking off and the creation of Hive was to be like, no, open source, decentralized, and a community owned and a community stewarded blockchain is what we want to see. Hive was created. And so one of the biggest things was essentially open sourcing and sort of making a public repo that more people could join, because before you could see it, but you couldn't participate in it. And so one of the really exciting things about, let's just say this last hard fork, we just had an incredibly huge hard fork. And there were by last count, there were more than 88 different developers contributing a plethora of changes, more changes in, a month than we'd seen in the previous 2 years in the previous code base. So it's absolutely been a huge challenge. And we use a lot of different ways to communicate. But I think one of the most important things that's kind of overlooked a lot is we have a blogging aspect to the blockchain. And so there are entire communities. There's a Hive improvements community. There is basically anybody can jump on and can start talking about what they want. They can have open blockchain conversations. But at the same time, yeah, we've definitely learned some lessons about having to put together, stakeholder chats and Telegram groups. We've got a little bit of everything. But certainly we also now have the DHF, which is essentially a developers fund or a DAO style mechanism that allows people to propose changes or to ask for funding. And then we have the ability to have stake weighted voting on that. And so we have a number of mechanisms even built into the blockchain itself to help gather information about what people want to do in the future. And now we have an open repo where we've got people who are constantly joining the conversation, who are throwing issues out even if they're not able to code it. And community coders are stepping up to take on some of these challenges. So it has been wild, but especially in the last month or two, it's starting to really coalesce and gel. And I think it's a worthy challenge because anything decentralized is immensely difficult to coordinate. And I think that's probably something we still have to improve on. But I'm excited to see what we've already kind of accomplished with this and knowing what tools that we have, how we can make it better.
Well, I think it definitely breeds some confidence knowing that they've got people like you at the helm over there with seemingly boundless.
I'm just the crazy lady that shows up to everything. That's what it really comes down to. It's incredible to see some of the developers that are involved. Yeah. But we have a lot of passionate community members who aren't developers. And I think that's a strength in the Hive ecosystem, because a lot of the times, as we're seeing again, and oh my gosh, I hate to bring up ETH a lot because I'm actually a big ETH fan. We're starting to see the same thing in the ETH ecosystem. People who use it have no concept of where to go to look at what's happening or where to get information about what's happening. And there's a huge divide between developers and end users. And that still exists within Hive now. But I truly think, anyways, as somebody who's often moving around the community and watching what's happening on the platform, we have an incredibly clued in user base, and they're not afraid to speak their minds. They're always getting right in and reviewing a lot of what's happening and asking a lot of tough questions. And that's challenging and it's exciting because that's how things will get changed from here on out. So
yeah, I was actually curious, this one maybe more in Bay's direction, but is that one of the things that sort of drew Beaksy's attention to Hive in the first place? Like, what were the key elements of the decision to list Hive on Beaksy's platform?
Yeah, so Krim, I think I talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but beyond all of the aspects within Hive, especially the decentralized nature, I mean, that's obviously very important, especially when you're looking for assets that, and to put it bluntly, coming from the US regulatory issues, we, did an assessment of Hive when we listed, the asset, and it came back and was like, okay, we see no problems with this, right? Fairly launched, fully decentralized, like all of the, and I'm maybe using fairly launched wrong there, but, it's like that all of those aspects combined made Hive an attractive listing. But on top of that, like, okay, that's great, but we have, future plans to release more things. And, our development team, and I know, Krim, we've talked about this, so I don't want to spoil it too much, but there are some pretty cool things that we intend to do, like on the Hive blockchain, right? So, and to your point, what you said about so many different, like, parties getting involved, I mean, we've worked with, 5 different parties to handle different things to get a listing done, right? I mean, a listing takes a lot of different parties. You have marketing, you have, liquidity provider, you have all of the above, right? So we've worked with the team, and, the team, it wasn't disjointed. It was actually very well put together. We got information quickly, got issues resolved, very communicative. So I think a lot about having, a project that is decentralized like that, everyone has to be cohesive and they all have to work together, right? And I think if you get a group of people that are willing to work together, other people will then join that mission, right? So I don't know if that answers your question there, James.
Definitely. And I think, we spent some time here sort of elaborating on Hive for the BC use, but, we make sure that we get the information out for the community on Beaxy. There are some questions from the Hive community, actually, Bay, if we want to knock those out, or are you ready to tee these up?
Yeah. Krim, we'll give you a break. You did a great job there
explaining. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was just going to use that last question to lead into to some of the questions about Beaxy as well, because having Hive listed on Beaxy is obviously really exciting, but it's certainly an aspect of our community that's been tricky. Any person in the US trying to get into crypto, in North America, trying to get into crypto, or even Europe, anywhere there's regulations, not having options for on and off ramping in their native currency is a big thing. So that was definitely one of sort of the big questions that may or may not have made it into our document, but that I saw come up quite a few times was, what are your guys' plans for further currencies or further expansions if you have them? And then, of course, we've got some really other great questions that are kind of there as well.
Yeah, we'll start there. So more currencies, right, beyond USD is imminent, right? That's right around the corner. So that'll give access to people around the world globally, right, to have an on-ramp there. And come along with that, right, is the ACH part, right? I mean, that's obviously in the cards, right? That's something that we're going to be working on. I don't have an exact timeline for it, but I mean, you think about it, how important it is, right? I mean, I connect to something and it takes me logging in with my bank account, right? And then you're sending ACH payments to your friend for dinner, right? So we know how big of a piece that is. First we thought it was prudent to focus on making Beaxy global. And then obviously as more people gain access, making it easier.
And I think just to add on there, the fiat currencies, we've added several to the platform now so that users can actually, in one platform, which is very unique worldwide, right? Having euros, Great British pounds, Canadian dollars, Australian dollars, USD, and Japanese yen, all in one, with paired trading pairs for all the crypto assets in one platform. For example, I'm based in France right now, and I can actually do an SEPA transfer of euros to the Beaxy platform without any fee of any kind, right? So I know a lot of our US customers, get hit with wire fees, and we're working really hard to get rid of that and have ACH. But in the meantime, from some of our other customer base, just so you are aware, there are options that be intensive in that.
I know that actually plays into another question that one of our users was asking, and that was sort of, you just did touch on it, which was around, sort of your fee structure, and will there be some other options other than wire transfer for US customers? So I know they're going to be really excited to hear that you guys are working on it. Everything worth having takes time though, so don't feel pressured, but there obviously people are really looking forward to that. And I know that especially as a custodial exchange is a ton of work and pressure put on your guys' shoulders.
Yeah. So that actually is a good point, right? We got a question that was like, it said that saw you have Curve as a custody agent, good choice. And then it goes into, my question is, since you have your own token and are resembling the Binance and Huobi model that has been laid out before you, will there be any products or services that they'll be able to spend the Beaxy token on or trade it for, right? So, James, I think you wanted to answer that one.
Yeah, definitely. So the Beaxy token, in a way, it fuels the entire Beaxy ecosystem in its current state, and it does that through two primary mechanisms, right? So the first is a pretty unique tiered fee structure rather, where you get discounts for paying your trading fees using your Beaxy tokens, and those discounts are escalating based on either the amount of trade volume you have or the number of Beaxy tokens that you hold in your wallet. So for example, we're kind of teasing this because this is announced imminently, right? But everybody will get some kind of discount for paying their trading fees whenever they trade any currency on the platform in BXY tokens. And then let's say if you accumulate up to 250,000 Beaxy tokens, that discount will then escalate up to, I think it's 10% for tier one off your trading fees. And then it goes up to like 15, 20, depending on either how much volume or how much Beaxy you're holding. Now, there's another primary mechanism in the ecosystem that's pretty important, and it incentivizes people to hang on to Beaxy tokens called staking loyalty rewards. So the idea being, you can lock away your tokens for a certain number of months, and then you're paid based on the length of time and obviously the amount of tokens you locked away. Mm-hmm. But you can earn up to like 12% annual percentage rate that's calculated monthly for you. So you get a payment monthly. And if you lock them up for 12 months, you get 12%. If you just want to lock them up for like 3 months, you get 3%. Right? Those are kind of the two ways that you can use the tokens right now, but it's pretty huge that you get quite a bit off because our fees are already very low, especially on our trading fees. So if you use Beaxy, you can actually get them even lower than that, and it becomes one of the most competitive pricing models that you'll see on any US-based exchange.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Absolutely. And certainly our community is used to the idea of staking, and that is that's something that we don't see maybe enough of in the space just yet, is the ability to stake and sort of have a higher, not necessarily even a reward system, but a higher ability to transact. And it's a similar sort of thing with Hive in that when you stake your coins, you are able to take more actions on the network. And so that's something that I think a lot of people in our ecosystem are used to is here's an option that I have. I understand that my sort of participation in this system has benefits for me, and I can make decisions whether or not that, that's going to fit with my strategy or my goal or my outcome.
Yeah, Krim, on those benefits, we had a pretty interesting question, but we feel like it's important to answer, right? They asked, why should I move my resources to Beaxy from another platform? What advantages over other crypto exchanges do you offer? And that's a fair question, right? I mean, you have thousands of exchanges, really only, a handful of good ones, but you have a lot of options, right? So, why would you move to Beaxy, right? And we think that we have a good answer for that. So, James, I'll let you touch on that.
Yeah, bottom line here, why should you move your resources onto Beaxy? Well, first of all, as a US-based exchange, and not only US-based, right, but from the ground up, sort of built to be US regulatory compliant, while also striking as much of a balance as possible with personal data privacy. We are one of the best options in the US that's truly US regulation friendly, and we're cheaper than some other options like Gemini or Coinbase, and we offer comparable services. The other way in which that works is that we have a lot of features that appeal to traders versus maybe other platforms that are built for people that want to do these kind of one-off, two-off buys and then hold it for a while. We have a lot of features that we've built into the platform that may be more compelling if you are more actively involved in crypto on a day-to-day basis. For example, we offer automated technical analysis. We call it signals on the platform, right? But we've integrated that into our platform. If you look anywhere else on like Twitter or Instagram or whatever, you'll see people selling you that service for like $60 a month by itself, right? Just to give you recommendations on when you should enter a trade or exit a trade, at what levels, giving you fib estimates, giving you resistance support levels, et cetera, right? We've built that into the platform for you. And then that's in our web platform, right? But if you add one onto that, we have a pretty killer mobile app, and we've spent a lot of time on that because we know that people that are actively involved in the crypto community, a lot of trading is moving towards that mobile platform. And so we've built a mobile app that's not just like an add-on to our web platform where you can check your balances, but it's actually truly, you can move the bulk of your trading activity to our mobile app. And we've done cool, innovative stuff like Trender, where the signal service that we use actually serves you up trade recommendations, kind of like you're looking for a date, right? But you can swipe and you can swipe through trades and disregard the ones you don't want, but it'll tell you the confidence level. It'll show you where it's at, what the time frame is, so that you can make an informed decision quickly. These are things that matter, I think, to traders, and we tried to do that, sort of built by trading conscious people and people experienced with legacy finance. It's a little bit different flavor from the other ones that were sort of built by, software developers and software background.
Yeah, that's something that I'm personally kind of looking forward to, because I'll be the first to say that when I got into crypto, I am definitely one of those nerds who was like, tech first. Like, I am not a good trader. I'm not. And so one of the things that's been really fascinating is kind of watching people in our ecosystem who can take either route. But for me, certainly, like, I need some help. I'm spending a lot of time looking at the Leo finance community and looking at their analysis, but I think that would be really valuable is, having a lot of this information with me and being able to kind of understand some of the reasons and movements and currents that are happening in the trade, in the trade game, and not necessarily having to participate right off the bat, but having a suite of tools that can empower me to kind of learn on the fly and watch real market data and have it presented to me in a way that's easy to see and use and understand, which is very cool.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an overlooked aspect of this sometimes is that there is a legacy finance aspect to it, and that a lot of trading methodologies can be overlaid. But I think a lot of people get scared because they don't feel like they have the background in it, and they don't want to move around too. So you don't get a lot of people executing tons of trades. You get a lot of retail folks that don't want to execute a lot because they're like, I'm not a money person, right? Well, we try to eliminate that learning curve, or at least shorten it as much as possible. Bay, I do want to get to a quick question from the Hive community, because I think this is one that's pretty important to them, based on the history of that community. But Hive was created in part because there's a crazy situation involving existing custodial exchanges in governance. What is Beaxy's stance on custodial exchanges potentially getting involved in blockchain governance, and what are your thoughts on custodial arrangements? Are they necessary in the age of not your keys, not your?
Yeah, that's a good question. And Krim, we talked about this in the very beginning, right? How important it was, especially given everything that's happened to the Hive community, right? So sensitive, right? So definitely an important topic. So obviously, right now, Beaxy does not participate in any governance, right? It doesn't, at this point in time, obviously, doesn't do us any good, right? I mean, there's no benefit to us getting involved. We get involved and something good happens, but it's still the downside that we got involved, right? That you interfered with the governance system. So there's just no upside, right? There's not a lot of upside for us. But I think the question about not your keys, not your crypto, is interesting. And I personally, right, have gone back and forth on this. Okay. So I'll tell you my stance, right? And not that this is the stance of everyone at Beaxy, but the way that I think about it is, I don't keep my money under my mattress, right? So and that's, just me personally, right? Walking around with like a YubiKey and putting all this stuff. I just am not totally comfortable with it. Right. But when I leave it, at an exchange that I know has institutional grade custody of the asset, right? I know it's not going to get hacked. And then on top of that, like, does it have insurance? Right. So, when you make a fiat deposit on Beaxy, you have $250,000 in fiat insurance, right? If it were to get hacked. So those two things alone make me more comfortable having, a 24/7 monitoring team, having, your crypto custody, even if it's not with an exchange, right? Even if it's just with BitGo, it's like, okay, well, if I have that amount of crypto, right? Once I start getting up into it might not be unrealistic for some people, but millions of dollars in crypto, like, do I really want that, like, hanging out in my pocket? I don't know. Right. So that's just me personally. But I also see the validity in the other side, right? Because that's exactly like I talked about, the essence of crypto, right? That's the whole going against the current on, why crypto was created. So I see both sides, but me personally, I lean towards having a qualified custodian.
Just to piggyback on that, I mean, a lot of the high profile hacks that you're seeing recently have to do with fake updates to personal wallets, whether that's Electroneum or whether that's Ledger. There's a recent high profile one with Ledger. When you leave your stuff with I know this hasn't always been true, right? But for example, through our partnership with Curve, it's got multiple eyeballs on it from multiple human beings in a very short time frame, and those human beings have a lot of expertise in like these transactions, right? So it drives down the probability that there's going to be any kind of weirdness happening when you have multiple people that have to look at any transaction before it can go through, and that we're working with such a sophisticated partner in the crypto security space. In some ways, it can help. You want a team protecting your stuff. You don't necessarily want to be the only one protecting your stuff sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think this is obviously going to be a struggle that we're always going to see inside crypto, because there is the very important and very valid aspect of self-sovereignty, of really starting to take responsibility for yourself, for your ability to transact value, to protect yourself from some of what's happening in the fiat world. But at the same time, much like, choosing Hive or choosing another project or choosing many projects, you have tools available to you. And the best thing that you can do is diversify your tool set. So, I mean, I think that we'd be very foolish to pretend that there's no reason for custodial exchanges. There absolutely is. And they're always going to be needed. And it really comes down to, can you choose one that offers you the benefits and the tools and the protection that you need? How much of your personal finances are you willing or comfortable moving through them, and what balance do you have to strike? Because there's nothing to say that you can't keep, X amount for yourself in a cold air-gapped wallet, with pit bulls ringing around your, metal
Dragon.
seed phrase. Yeah, exactly. And that's really valuable and really important. But at the same time, for a lot of people who are bringing value or using crypto in a way that furthers adoption, or that really sort of shores up the crypto space in terms of, yes, this has value, we can transact, we can move in and out of fiat, and we have the ability to choose when we do that. A centralized exchange is probably going to be part of it. And that's just the reality of it right now too, right? We can't see what the future holds, but it is a very good chance that a lot of people are going to want to be able to move in and out and are going to need help with that. It's certainly something we've seen in the space, is that just because you can take control of your own crypto doesn't mean you're always super good at it, which is terrible. We want to change that. But at the same time, this is why you have teams that build really great products. This is why you have companies that become the best at what they do. And this is why slowly over time, regulations and options and all of the things that we get a little ooky about in the crypto space come about. And it comes down to, how are you personally going to approach that? What's the mix? What's the right blend for you? The important thing is that you do have the option.
Right. And I think Beaxy understands that we're just one of many team players in this space, right? And it kind of goes back to that question of like, are we looking at getting involved in blockchain governance, right? Like, we understand we're absolutely not. We understand that we operate at very certain choke points, key points that help people out, like getting out of crypto and that sort of thing. And it goes to another sort of question that I think that your community was worried about, because it's the prerogative of an centralized exchange to delist certain coins if it sees fit. I think the question from one of the Hive community was, we've seen exchanges get excited over coins, but then when the value to be delisted all of a sudden. So maybe Bay can help shed some light on this one, but under what circumstances or conditions does Beaxy ever delist coins?
Yeah, there's pretty much three main things, right? Is it vulnerable from a security standpoint?
Right.
That's important. Did regulators tell us to delist it for any reason? And obviously, always constantly monitoring that, right? I mean, if guidance is put out and like, hey, this asset's not kosher, then you obviously remove it from the platform. And then an ongoing liquidity issue, right? Because people need to buy and sell. That's the point of an exchange, right? That's the point. So people can transact, right? And having something listed that people can't transact makes it questionable to have on the platform, right? And spend resources on. So I would say those are the three main things, right? Beyond that, there's not, everything else is an edge case, right? So I would stick to those three.
Yeah, and I think some of the sort of pain points on that and why it has come up is because we certainly have seen, as a newer coin or a newer asset, and kind of going through the listing process and approaching or being approached by a ton of exchanges, one thing that obviously has thrown up a couple more barriers is that there isn't any one person, and so in a lot of cases with exchanges, you have somebody who's signing all the paperwork behind the scenes, and there's kind of a company or an initial token offering, or sort of there's a formula now in crypto that we're so used to seeing, and that is exchange finds a new project and there's a sick amount of hype and the thing rockets through the roof and then just kind of peters out and dies. And so I think the question kind of comes from a place of, we certainly did experience a new project hype, and we did have that point. But at the same time, we kind of have this slow and steady plotting growth and this sort of long-term community. And I know for them, it's it's always a worry that if we aren't sort of one of these very flashy projects, and it's something we're working on, is definitely like, hey, we built this cool thing, it's time to market. But for other celebrities in the crypto space, everything is an announcement with fireworks and tigers and, it's the coolest new thing. And it turns out, yeah, no, that fucking already exists. Like, come on, get out of here. But that's a thing, obviously, that sometimes exchanges and outlets and sort of the news circle of crypto can be complicit in. And I know that's something that sort of our communities, like, they don't buy into that as much. And so it's cool to hear that it really comes down to like, hey, is this safe? Is this valuable? And, is it something that people out in the space find, that they can use day to day? Because that's really what it should be about.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're pretty anti-hype on the Beaxy team, like in terms of we're not following the shiniest thing of the day, right?
Yeah,
These things guys do a lot of due diligence on the core fundamentals of a lot of these projects, and it's at the end of the day not about how many tigers and fireworks you.
I mean, I'd be okay with it if somebody wanted to throw that budget my way. I could have a tiger lounging back here. I'd be okay with it. I mean, I'm open to the idea.
I'll check on Amazon.
Well, perfect. Krim, thank you very much. I'll let you round it off, but that's all the questions we had from our side. So if you have anything else you'd...
Yeah, I'm just taking a look over our document, and I think we hit a lot of the big questions. And I do really appreciate that you guys tackled the one about why should we use a custodial exchange head on, and then also the governance one, because of course, it's sensitive to our community specifically, obviously, but it's certainly something that as we move forward and with some of the most popular coins out there, it's not going away. And sort of staking pools and the ability to have a say in governments when staking, especially, DPoS coins, it's something that's going to become more and more and more important. And that was certainly a big eye-opener for a lot of people with, it became kind of inevitably and inexorably tied to centralized exchanges. And that was, hey, they hold a crap load of coins. And if they chose to stake and enter into governance, they could absolutely do whatever they wanted. And so in a lot of ways, that was a lot of the crypto pushback came from that in terms of centralized exchanges. And so I know that that's not just a personal thing from people within our community, but just a struggle for exchanges right now to very clearly define how they want to approach this and sort of what that governance question means, knowing that there are a lot of parts of the crypto space that are moving towards, shared governance or voting governance or whatever the case may be, staking as a part of governance. So I certainly appreciate that you guys tackled that head on. I know there's something that everybody's asking us that we'll have to approach you guys about. But one of the cool things that Hive has is the ability to broadcast a transaction that gives up your rights for governance voting. So that might be something that you guys want to check out in the future. And what it means is your wallet works exactly the same in every single way. But were you to cast a vote for witnesses, it wouldn't apply. And you can do that by yourself. Now, this is not to throw you guys on the spot, but I think that we're going to see more solutions like this coming forward. I'm thinking other chains are probably going to have to copy us in this way, in that depending on how exchanges sort of lay their goals and their sort of aspirations out there, giving them tools to really just say, hey, yeah, you don't have to trust, you can verify. And we know how important that is in crypto. So I'm super appreciative that you guys hit all the questions. I'm trying to scan the YouTube chat, but it looks pretty good. Everybody's congratulating you on not making announcements about upcoming announcements. So it's looking pretty solid for covering off our questions. So yeah, I think we're probably going to end up talking again in the future. And you guys were very patient with me this morning. You're a little bit ahead of me. It's just 9 a.m. for me on the West Coast. So, maybe just give everybody one last goodbye. Tell them a little bit about that offer. I know it's limited to only X amount of people. So maybe let people know about checking out, getting signed up and verified for Beaxy, and anything else that you might want to throw in there at the end.
Yeah, that's probably good to round it off on, right? So there is a link in Crim, out of the best place, maybe Discord or YouTube in the chat. We can share that link and then follow that link, get verified, and then we will send 50 Hive to your account, right? So it's just a little thank you, obviously, for joining us on this live stream. And Crim, appreciate it. It was great to talk with you guys.
Yeah, it's good to finally kind of put some voices to faces, and it's always more fun to do this in video. A little more scary, but usually people can pull a lot more information out of it. So thank you for putting up with this. Hopefully not the last from us, because I know. Is it too close to say that it's an announcement of an announcement, in that we know that you guys do have some future goals for potentially some projects involving Hive down the line?
Is it an announcement of announcement? No, I don't think so.
Is that too announcy?
I think it's out in the wild now, right? So, it's I don't know, pre-marketing, I guess. Maybe that's the best way to phrase it. But yeah, we're excited about it.
It's the power of suggestion. All right, guys, I'm going to shut it down. Thank you so much again. We are going to obviously have these videos available on demand on YouTube, on 3Speak, on Vim. And then we'll do some editing, like properly getting your names on the screen so people know who's who after you've introduced yourself. I'm going to take care of that, and then we'll be uploading it all over the place for everybody to enjoy and come hang out and take a look at. So thanks again, guys. Have an awesome day wherever you are. I know you're all over the world. And we look forward to hearing more from Beaxy.